For most people, first-person shooter games fall into one of two categories. There's games that need constant updates to keep you interested, and there's games that keep you playing with deeper gameplay. For example, in arcadey games like Battlefield and Call of Duty, well, you're going to get sick of new content a lot faster than you would in games like Arma 3 or Squad. And that's because the gameplay itself is just so much simpler. Hell Let Loose, though, on the other hand, has always fallen somewhere in between those two groups. It's not an arcadey shooter, but it's not the deepest shooter out there either, and that means content updates matter a bit more. And well, with the release of Update 9 today, I think it's time we actually talked about the changing state of updates in Hell Let Loose and the future of the game as a whole. So guys, this is BillyEatWorld again, and let's find out. Alright guys, how you going? Welcome to the video, and like I said today, I want to take a look at the future of Hell Let Loose, and in particular I want to talk about what Update 9 means for the game. But just before we get into that though, I want to kick off with a piece of news that we actually got last week, which is massive. It's that Hell Let Loose is going to be coming to the next-gen consoles. Now, not just that, but the devs have also confirmed it's going to be coming this year. That's crazy. And the port is apparently being handled by another studio called Flix Interactive. So if anyone is having flashbacks of Insurgency Sandstorm's console announcement, well, the good news is Black Matter have already figured out that teaming up with a console studio is probably the best idea. So what does that mean, apart from the obvious? Well, if you're a console player, and I never thought I'd say this, but you're finally going to get to experience a Project Reality style tactical shooter on a console. And for us PC players, well, I think a console port is still going to be a massive positive. It's probably going to explode in popularity, and that means that more people are going to buy it on PC as well. Now, apart from that, we don't really have a lot of other information, but what we do know so far is that there is going to be crossplay between consoles, but there won't be crossplay between console and PC, which honestly is probably a good thing. That's really the easiest way to do crossplay without having to deal with things like hardware and controller-related balance issues. So all in all, that's pretty good news, but it's obviously still a while off. So let's get on to the big topic of this week, which is obviously Update 9, which I've got to say on the other hand is a bit more disappointing. It adds a lot of quality of life improvements, but it doesn't really add that much more in terms of new content. Really, the big ticket items here are the overhaul of Utah Beach, the new melee system, and the MG34 for the German team. And of course, there's also hundreds of other little bug fixes and tweaks as well, which I'm not going to get into in this video. You can check all of them out in the patch notes, which I'm going to link in the description down below. What I do want to talk about, though, is some of the more impactful changes that devs have made to the meta of things like garrisons. And once again, there's a lot of little changes, but the big ones are you now can't place garrisons in neutral territory, and garrisons placed in enemy territory are twice as expensive, and they're now known as forward garrisons. Not just that, but the airhead garrison timer has been extended to 3 minutes, which is really useful when you're trying to capture strong points in offensive, which by the way has also got some much needed tweaks in this patch. Most importantly, strong points are now twice as quick to capture, which I've got to say makes playing as the attacking team a whole lot less painful than it was before this update. Now, unfortunately, that's probably most of the things you're going to want to know about in Update 9, and that's why this video isn't really about Update 9 at all. We really need to talk about why the last few updates haven't been like Update 7 or any of the updates that came before that. Why haven't we got a new map in over 8 months now? And most importantly, if this pattern continues, is it going to affect the franchise long term? Is this a game that needs content updates to retain players? Well, that's where the grey area starts to kick in. I think you're going to find a lot of players that are still addicted to this game, but you're also going to find a lot of players that are starting to check out. Now, one thing you definitely can say about the state of Hell Let Loose is that it is definitely still growing, especially with the help of a couple of recent free weekends. But if you look at its stats on the Steam charts, well, you'll see it's not growing as consistently as it was in the past. You can see it ebb and flow as people come back for updates and then log out again. And really, I think a big part of that is, like I said, 8 months without a new map. You can add all the quality of life improvements you want, but maps are ultimately what players value the most. And if you want evidence of that, well, just take a look at Postscriptum, which by all rights should be as popular as Hell Let Loose, but it's not, because it took them a year and a half to get new maps out, and in that time the game almost died. Now, I've spoken about this in previous videos, but really I think the main reason new maps are so important for a game like this is because the current maps all fall into one of 3 different biomes. And the biggest problem is that a large chunk of those maps are set in the French countryside, and as the devs reuse a lot of the same assets from map to map, they kind of feel very similar. I mean, some are more urban, some are more spread out, but they all kind of look and feel the same, and it feels like you're fighting over the same buildings over and over again. And look, the devs have tried their best to make them look and feel different by changing the weather and the time of day presets, but honestly, that only works to a certain extent. It's just superficial. And look, I completely get it. Making maps is hard, especially for an indie studio, and so obviously a quick fix that Black Matter is already doing is to overhaul the existing maps to make them feel more unique. And to an extent, that's kind of worked, but it's obviously not the same as the devs releasing a completely new, fresh map. The real solution though, and I've been saying this for over a year now, is that the devs don't just actually need to add new maps. What they need to add is more diverse biomes, something that isn't green fields or Belgian forest. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but at least for me, that change needs to come really soon. Like, it should have been in this update soon. I'm getting to the limit of how much I can take of green French countryside. Now, with that being said, the good news is we already know the devs are working on exactly what I'm talking about. The Eastern Front is apparently coming to the game soon. And look, if you have a look at the current roadmap, we already know that we're getting a map based on Kursk, which was the biggest tank battle in world history. That's going to have to be a new experience, right? Not just that, but we're also getting a whole new faction, the Soviet Union, which is going to mean new weapons, new uniforms, and new vehicles. And by the way, and I haven't really mentioned this before, but isn't it crazy that this is the first new faction that's going to be added to the game in over 2 years? That's insane. But with that being said though, the big issue is we don't really have a solid release date for the Eastern Front yet. All we have is the new roadmap and a post from the devs which say that it's coming in the medium term. And I think probably the reasoning behind the vagueness in the release date is because, well, last year you might remember Black Matter had to revise their roadmaps because they were too ambitious. So instead of committing to a release date and then maybe missing it, what they're doing is they're playing it safe this time around and they're taking the time to get it right, which I respect. But look, that also means we might not see the Russian front until maybe even the end of this year or beyond. We just don't know yet. And like I said, we need those new biomes now. So all in all, to finish up, look, I'm not going to say that I'm burnt out on the game, and I'm not going to say that Update 9 isn't worth checking out, because it does add quite a lot of really cool things, but hopefully you can see where I'm coming from here. Hell Let Loose is often compared to AAA shooters like Battlefield 5, and now that it's making the jump to console, that comparison is going to come up even more. This game, I really feel, has the potential to be a lot bigger than it already is, and the franchise maybe even has the potential to someday be a rival to games like Battlefield. But to do that, the devs are going to have to at least keep up the pace they had going in the year or so after launch. They need to keep us excited, and they need to meet expectations like a AAA studio. Can that realistically happen? Look, I don't know. You've got to remember that Black Matter are an indie studio and this is their debut game, but the console release sure isn't going to hurt. There's nothing that helps generate new content more than a couple of extra revenue streams to get things going, especially when individually those streams are probably going to be worth more than the one you already have. But like I said, the console release may not be till the end of the year, and so ultimately I want to end this video on the point that timing here is everything. Will Update 10 be just another big dump of tweaks and fixes, or will Black Matter hit it out of the park? We'll have to wait and see. That ultimately is the main thing we need to focus on for the future of Hell Let Loose. But anyway, guys, that just about wraps up this quick video. So as always, make sure you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And just remember that I can't possibly cover every single detail of these updates in just one video. So as always, if you want to find out more, all the links will be in the description. As always, though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and please feel free to check out the links in the description if you want to see any more of these videos. And also, don't forget you can find my Twitter and Discord links down there as well if you want to keep in touch. And as always, until next time, see you later, and have a good one.